So for me, I'm never satisfied with where I am. I feel like I should be much further in my career and much further with where I'm going. So I always try to push the boundaries and get to that next level. I'm always about blazing trails and identifying what's next and identifying what's new. And that's what I try to do with everything that I do. I have one belief, and that's if you do something, you've got to go all in on it. Got it. Yes, it is DJ Ski. I'm here with Tops, and this is Project 70, Meet the Artist.
Could you pull back the curtain on who DJ Ski is outside of the hobby?
DJ Ski is somebody that has been fortunate enough along my life to find what I love to do, follow my passions, and be able to make a living with it. Obviously, music is the foundation for everything that I do. Once I started DJing as a teenager, I just knew that was going to be my career path. I thought I was going to be a pro athlete and have been fortunate enough to merge into the sports world over the past decade, starting off with creating content, hanging out with athletes, working with the professional sports teams, and now creating art with them that kind of mirrors all of my love together. The thing that got me hooked into sports was the 1991 World Series with the Minnesota Twins. There was no probably greater moment in my life than being a young kid and watching that series, especially because my family had just moved to Minnesota at that time. So it was my first introduction into sports and really baseball as a whole. And growing up in Minnesota beyond the sports stuff gave me, a really great foundation. Minnesota is interesting because it's right in the middle of the map. You're halfway between the East Coast and the West Coast. You get this different, unique, diverse mix of everything. And if you look at the music scene, you have on one hand Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, of course Prince. On the other hand, you have bands like Soul Asylum. You have people like Edie Amin from the Outlaws, Tupac's group that went to the high school with me, to all this old mint condition guys on the R&B side. Like, it's a super eclectic music scene, and I think it gave me a great look into the world from kind of a middle of the map perspective and also from a real person perspective. Funny because as a kid, my first business was as an 8-year-old trying to sell cards out of my garage, right, in Minnesota. And I dreamed maybe one day I would, have a card shop or something like that. And to be able to come back and now have a card shop, have a lot of different projects in the works and kind of this whole industry as a sector, and be supporting it by investing in the next group of companies in that, by creating my own art with brands like Tops, is just a dream come true. Similar to cards, I've been in the sneaker scene early on, and it's actually how I made a lot of industry connections and relations with artists. I was getting Fat Joe his shoes and all these different music business executives and figures their shoes, and I feel like, well, sneakers still have room to grow. They're not a secret anymore. That's why for me, cards are so exciting and so interesting, because despite how big they are, we all see these massive sales. I think that there still is so much more room to grow in this space, and hence why I want to go out and support the next generation of startups in it, really get kids into this. And that's why, to me, it's so important to storytell and connect the dots between music, art, fashion, sneakers, culture. And I think that this whole card scene is on the same trajectory that sneakers was a decade ago. My unique skill set is probably being able to identify talent and trends early on. You look at some of the artists that I've put on first, you look at some of the brands and trends that I've spotted early on, whether that's being early in the sneaker scene or, well, not new to the card scene as that was my first business. I still do believe that this industry is the next to kind of follow in that same trajectory of mainstream popularity and success. So I think if you had to point out one unique skill set that I had that's made me successful in my career, it's been identifying talent, putting others on, and figuring out how to put things together. That's really what we as DJs do. It's remixing things. It's introducing the world to different things. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with my cards and with this art. It's mixing all of these worlds together and introducing two worlds that normally wouldn't live together. And that's what's been so fun about this project.
Your relationship with Tops, I'm interested to hear the very beginning of it and then how it's culminated to Project 70.
It's so incredible working with a brand that you grew up buying all of their stuff, like Tops, iconic. And for me, baseball is still my favorite sport. When you look at sports cards, it's all about baseball cards. So to work with the most iconic brand in the space has been just phenomenal for me. I remember when I first saw Project 2020, I remember actually DMing the Tops account like, wow, this is so cool, we should do some stuff. Didn't get a response, unfortunately. And even me, see, it works that way. And when Tops started coming out with some of the other Project 2020 things, like the big prints, they reached out to me to see if I'd be interested in doing an interview series with all the artists. So I jumped on it just because I thought it would be a fun project. And during those conversations, I was like, hey, if you guys ever do anything like this, would love to get involved somehow. And they're like, well, hence Project 70. For me, I had this vision on really combining my two worlds, the things that I love most, music and sports and culture. And that's why I've created such a, music-inspired set for Project 70, and it's just come together better than I can even imagine. When I first got the info on Project 70, I kind of had some ideas that I wanted to do, but I knew I needed to make it themed. Because if it was just me drawing or designing cards, people might not understand why me that's known as a DJ, even though I do a lot of other things, is doing a card. So when I had the concept for music, it's funny because then about 10 days later, shout out to my guy Don C, he dropped the Dr. K card. It was a Dr. Dre one, and I was like, that's my idea. Everybody's gonna think I bit him. So Don, I didn't bite you. It was a genius idea. You came with it. But as soon as I had that idea with album covers and music, I knew that that was gonna be kind of the one. A lot of people don't realize as a DJ, I came up into the mixtape game, right? And that's how I got known. Like if you go back to DJ Ski in history, and the first time people were able to Google and find me, it's gonna be from 300 Bars with The Game and producing all of his mixtapes and Kendrick Lamar and all these guys. And these mixtape album covers were like movie posters that we just would put together in Photoshop. And that was the only way that we could sell them. It was so important to make a good mixtape cover because they weren't buying them based on anything else other than the cover. So this project has really brought me back to my roots and how we create things that are aesthetically pleasing, that will get people's attention. And it's literally like what I was doing in mixtapes and what I've been doing in mixtapes my whole life. And that's why my designs are typically so busy, because it's about storytelling and adding all those different elements, because that's the way that the mixtape scene was and the way that I grew up. And that's why it can vary so much release to release. Some might be sketched out, some might just be pulling in and pulling some Photoshop layers and adding 100 things to it and recreating Bad Bunny's album cover like we did with Fernando Tatis. And for me, it's taken me back to my roots of what I've done, since a teenager on Photoshop, putting all this stuff in and in essence making these remixes.
The following is a DJ Ski presentation.
Yes, welcome in. I'm DJ Ski, and I'm so excited because this is the first in our series of 20 where we are actually doing a curated playlist themed around all 20 of my Project 70 cards for Tops.
One of my favorite things about my cards that Tops let me do was put a QR code on the back of all of them. And what that QR takes you to is a specific curated show and playlist where it allows me to play all this music, but talk through that too. So it's not a podcast where I'm just talking through it. We're actually playing all the musical elements of it. And what's so cool about it is I get to tell you all these different stories on why all these elements are on the card, as well as give people a whole breakdown of the music that inspired that. So for me, it's really bridging the gaps between these two worlds and bringing in people that are fans of these artists to find out more about that baseball player and that card, and conversely, bringing in people that are fans of the baseball player but have never heard of that artist or listened to that album and introduce them to new genres and sectors. And I got so much great feedback from people like, wow, I gave it a chance, or I thought this was something different, and that's what I really wanted to bring out of this. So being able to add this playlist element just as another dimension to my cards, especially me as a DJ with my cards being music oriented, that just plays together so well. If I could go back to my 8-year-old self, I would say follow your passions and make all your decisions out of what you love to do. It's never steered me wrong. Everything that I've done that's been successful has been something that I've been passionate about and truly cared about. And when I've gone out and tried to do too much or do something for other reasons, it hasn't worked out as well. So follow your passions and follow your heart. And by the way, if I can do this, anybody else out there can. I'm no more special than anybody else. So I hope that I can give hope to people, no matter where you're from. If you're from a small state in the middle of the map to, being on the coast, like a kid from Minneapolis living the Hollywood dream. Hard work puts you there, and if I can do it, you guys can get so much further. So let me be, point of reference to prove that kind of anything is possible. I've been fortunate enough to throw out a couple starting pitches. Even because of Project 70, the San Diego Padres and Tatis's team invited me out to throw out the pitch, and I threw out a knuckleball, right? Like, who else if you don't play, is gonna have the audacity to even attempt a knuckleball in front of 70,000 people. So yeah, I really play. Let's go.
Hey, what's up? I'm Brittany Palmer.
This is Gregory Siff.
Yes, it is DJ Ski.
My name is Alex Pardee.
And you are with Tops.
For Project 70.
Meet the artist.
I don't need a wave.
Wait, what?
Stay in school.